Immigration. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Trying to make it out like, hey, up is down, down is up, while their own immigration level shows 3 million more people coming in the next 3 years.
We laid out a plan that sets targets for both permanent and temporary residents.
This is from the government of Canada. I don't need to fake these numbers. This is from their own plan. And just the temporary residents, 673,516,543. Well, what's that number? That's 1.6 mil right there. That's a low number. It's actually higher than that. Closer to 1.8. 1.8 million plus a million is 2.8 million. Yeah, 3 million people. You're looking at 3 million people in 2025, 2026, 2027. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of facts. This damage control that Trudeau is doing from their own plan. 3 million more people over the next 3 years. That's their own plan. 3 million more people over the next 3 years. That's their own plan.
In the last 2 years, our population has grown really fast, like baby boom fast.
Except this wasn't a baby boom, right?
And those temporary residents who are already in Canada, some will apply to stay in Canada as permanent residents. Since they're already here, established and working, the added pressure put on communities is very low. Or
no, it's not very low. Travel to any small community. They're overrun. PEI, Prince Edward Island, it's overrun.
They'll leave Canada when their temporary residency expires, reducing our population.
No, they don't leave. They don't leave. You know they don't leave.
Some temporary residents may turn to our asylum system when their visa expires as a shortcut to stay in Canada. Those claims will be analyzed and processed, and if their claim fails, they'll be sent home.
7 years. They get to hang around for 7 years.
Between the amount of people coming and going, we'll effectively pause population growth for the next 2 years.
What are you talking about? We're talking 3 million more people. You're telling me 3 million more people are going to pass away over the next 3 years? How? How is it pausing? That doesn't even make sense.
We're making the system work for Canadians and for newcomers. Increasingly, bad actors like fake colleges and big chain corporations have been exploiting our immigration system for their own interests.
Right. Yeah, and who's been benefiting from that? That's what I want to know.
So we're doing something major. We're reducing the numbers of immigrants that will come to Canada for the next 3 years.
And you know this guy is doing damage control today. Why is he doing so much damage control? Because his numbers are down. Because Pierre Poilievre is looking to be a real challenger. And he's got about a year, if everything works out. If Jagmeet keeps supporting him, which it looks like he's doing, just to shore up his own base, his Khalistani support, this guy's got to play along with that. So we're going to see what this means for Canada.
I'm going to let you in on what happened, where we made some mistakes, and why we're taking this big turn. There are 2 kinds of immigration in Canada. The one you probably think of most is permanent immigration, like when families come to Canada to settle and call it home.
I got to pause it here. The smarmy tone that Trudeau speaks with, talking down to us, this guy should have gone back and just continued being a teacher.
Right number of permanent residents that we want to admit. That's how it's been done for decades. But a plan that only talks about permanent immigration misses the other pathway.
When Justin Trudeau took power in 2015, from their own website, Liberals unveiled new plan for immigration focused on family reunification and middle-class growth.
Permanent immigration misses the other pathway, temporary immigration. Temporary residents are people who come to Canada for a limited time, like international students, temporary workers, and so on. They come to work a job or
They come to take our jobs.
Go to school. When the job is done or when they finish their degree, most return home. Some apply to stay as permanent residents, but most...
I think you mean most apply. Especially the most extreme of the extremists apply for asylum, citing political concerns and their inability to return back home because of being persecuted. We've seen the Khalistani use this time and time again.
So back to this year's plan. Historically, Canada's annual immigration plan just looked at permanent residents. The number of temporary students and workers that we admitted each year was left to the demands of the economy. It was usually a small proportion of our population, so it's never been a part of the long-term immigration plan. But after the pandemic, our economy came roaring back quickly, and we needed a lot of workers fast.
Canada is in the middle of a huge labor shortage.
Temporary foreign workers became such a significant part of our workforce that it'd be a mistake not to include them when we plan our immigration levels. So this year, we did exactly that for the first time.
His face right here. And I think to myself, this guy knows. He knows that he's losing. This is his attempt to divert, distract, and make it out as if he's actually making a change. But he's the problem. He is literally the reason we're in this mess. He's the reason that when you send your children out there to look for work, they've got a really hard time competing with all of these temporary foreign workers.
We laid out a plan that sets targets for both permanent and temporary residents. This way, we're getting the full breakdown of people coming into our country so we can prepare the homes and infrastructure needed to support them. Like I said, immigration is based on demand.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. I've got to hold back my vomit. This is from the Government of Canada, supplementary information for the 2025 to 2027 immigration levels plan. I'm sorry to do this. I know, using their own website and their own facts. What do they say? Temporary residents, overall arrivals in 2025 is going to be 673,000. In 2026, 516,000. In 2027, 543,000. You tell me, even when you decrease by 20%, if you've bloated those numbers so hard, so heavy over the last couple of years, even a 20% decrease is still going to result in a massive amount of new people who are going to be competing for jobs, housing, and everything else. Not to mention not becoming part of the fabric of Canadian society. Assimilating. I know, I said the A word, assimilating. And that's just temporary residents. Let's take a look at permanent residents. Permanent residents. Well, in 2025, the plan is for 395,000 approximately. You got a target range, a low range, and a high range. 2026, 380,000. 2027, 365,000. And those numbers are broken down into different groups, whether it's an economic admission, or a family admission, or a refugees and protected persons admission. And then you've even got a separate one completely, total humanitarian and compassionate and other. I don't even know what that is. Frankly, doesn't seem to fit into the refugees. It's a separate group. What numbers are we looking at? Well, again, total numbers for 2025, and this is just for PR, permanent residents, is 395,000. 26 is 380,000. 27 is 365,000. That's a million people right there, right? 333 times 3 is 999. About a million. It's actually over. So my low estimates, because I don't need to fake these numbers. This is from their own plan. And just the temporary residents, 673,000, 516, 543. Well, what's that number? That's 1.6 mil right there. That's a low number. It's actually higher than that. Closer to 1.8. 1.8 million plus a million is 2.8 million. Yeah, 3 million people. You're looking at 3 million people in 2025, 2026, 2027. I mean, I hate to be the bearer of facts. This damage control that Trudeau is doing from their own plan. 3 million more people over the next 3 years. That's their own plan. 3 million more people over the next 3 years. That's their own plan. But let's continue listening to Trudeau and try to stop hammering ourselves in our nads.
When we set our targets, we look at every province and territory. We ask the premiers, what are the gaps in your workforce? Is your population growing or getting older? We field calls from businesses, CEOs, economic experts, all sharing their thoughts on where we should set our targets.
We've had a chronic shortage of labor for the last decade.
And of course, business wants more cheaper labor to replace us. Of course.
It is the number one issue of all manufacturers across Canada. So we think there needs to be more, push the pedal to the floor to bring more people into Canada because
Ontario is facing a generational labor shortage.
Oh, great. I got Doug Ford. Oh, man. Trudeau's lapdog.
380,000 jobs are going unfilled.
It's no surprise that every sector has different.
Hold on a second. Unemployment is at an all-time high. So how does any of this make sense?
Has different wants and needs when it comes to immigration. But after the pandemic, they all came to us with the same message. After 2 years with closed borders,
I think you mean after giving free money to everybody, destroying small businesses, not allowing Canadians to, hey, what about those nurses? Anybody remember those nurses? The ones that couldn't work anymore? How about that? Huh? Did we all forget?
we need more people, more workers, fast. so we brought in more workers. It was the right choice. It worked. Our economy grew. Restaurants, stores reopened, businesses kept running. But most importantly, in spite of lots of economists' predictions, we avoided the worst-case scenario, a recession.
Mom?
But some saw that as an opportunity to profit, to game the system.
What?
We've seen way too many large corporations doing this.
Oh, a second, he's doing the corporation thing now. He's blaming the corporations. Man, the NDP, Jagmeet and Trudeau, really, you know what? We got co-presidents of our high school Canada, co-presidents. Jagmeet, right? Kalistani, hey, he's got his Kalistani support. Trudeau's got, he cannot stop that. He's got to support him. Got to keep letting him in. No matter what they do to our streets, whatever extremists of any stripe, Hamas supporters, all these people. It's amazing to me, this about face he's doing right over here, trying to make it out like, hey, up is down, down is up, while their own immigration level shows 3 million more people coming in the next 3 years.
The government says the program has been used to get around hiring Canadian workers in some instances.
Far too many colleges and universities used international students.
This guy set up the program. He set it up. He set it up, and now you know what? He's got all these, of course, scam colleges. There's no doubt about it. But now all the blame is being put. That's the fall guy, right? That's the fall guy. These guys use the loopholes that this guy set up in the system
to raise their bottom line.
There are the diploma equivalent of puppy mills that are just churning out diplomas. There is fraud and abuse, and it needs to end.
Because they could charge these students tens of thousands of dollars more for the same degree. And then there are really bad actors who outright exploit people, who target vulnerable immigrants with promises of jobs, diplomas, and easy pathways to
Who set this
citizenship.
up?
Promises that
Who
would
set
never
this up,
come true.
bro?
Looking back, when the post-pandemic boom cooled and businesses no longer needed the
Stop
additional
it.
labor
Just
help,
stop.
as a federal team, we could
Stop.
have acted quicker and
Stop.
turned off the taps faster.
Now it is time to make the adjustments to stabilize the immigration system that
Man, I really, I don't know about you guys, but this United Colors of Benetton whole thing, right? I've really had enough of it. I really have had enough of it. I just had to throw that out there.
we need and get it working right for Canadians for right now.
Immigration is primarily a federal job. We have the levers to rein it in, so we are.
This is a big change, a major cut to immigration, reducing permanent immigration levels by at least 20%.
20% is no 3 million more people.
On temporary immigrants.
That means a decrease in
Still,
international students,
3 million more
temporary
people.
workers.
Canada's new immigration plan is straightforward. Lower the number of new immigrants coming into Canada, both temporary and permanent.
No.
We're prioritizing permanent residents with the skills we need, like healthcare workers for our hospitals.
Oh, you hire back the healthcare workers that you fire, please, God.
Construction workers who will build more homes. And those temporary residents who are already in Canada, some will apply to stay in Canada as permanent residents. Since they're already here, established and working, the added pressure put on communities is very low. Or
no, it's not very low. Travel to any small community. They're overrun. PEI, Prince Edward Island, land of Anna Green Gables. Anne of Green Gables. It's overrun.
they'll leave Canada when their temporary residency expires, reducing our population.
No, they don't leave. They don't leave. You know they don't leave. What is this? This is torture.
Some temporary residents may turn to our asylum system when their visa expires as a shortcut to stay in Canada. Those claims will be analyzed and processed, and if their claim fails, they'll be sent home.
7 years. They get to hang around for 7 years.
Between the amount of people coming and going, we'll effectively pause population growth for the next 2 years.
What are you talking about? We're talking 3 million more people. You're telling me 3 million more people are going to pass away over the next 3 years? How? How is it pausing? That doesn't even make sense.
Then from 2027 onwards, it'll balance out and slowly start increasing again at a sustainable pace. In fact, that gets us back to the population growth path we were on before the pandemic. This pause is going to give our economy and our communities the chance to catch up with things like our plan to build millions more homes. It's not stopping, but now we'll have a little more breathing room as we build.
Nobody gets homes like this anymore. You get a shoebox, everybody knows it, right? Canada, land, geographical mass, incredible mass. But hey, no, you get a shoebox.
Investing in Canadian workers and youth rather than relying on cheap foreign labor. Our cap on international students is already bringing rental prices down in big cities, and as we keep that cap in place, rents will keep coming.
Whoa, I love these animated. Look at that rent just decreasing. Look at that. The rent is just going to decrease. Right, of course. This is like telling you, don't believe your own lying eyes. That's what this is. Don't believe. And what are they showing here? They're showing you the 3-month change, because that's the only graph apparently that's going to give them the numbers that matter. How about we do a 6-month change? Or how about we do a year? Or how about we do a 5-year change? Has your wage gone up? That's the question I got for you.
Down. We're making the system work for Canadians and for newcomers rather than for the big box stores, chain restaurants, immigration consultants, and sham colleges.
Come on.
Immigration is a great thing, and we're lucky that so many people dream of coming to our country. Fulfilling that dream depends on having a good job, a decent place to live, and health care that you can access when you need it. We have to make sure our population isn't getting out ahead of those things.